All right, so we just started recording. I'm sure more people are going to jump on in the next few minutes, and for those of you who are here, I appreciate you joining us today. I got to be honest with you. I go to these events sometimes, and I'm disappointed. Not necessarily every event I go to, but a lot of them. It's kind of the same old stuff. And then I go to an event like I just went to, which is 30 under 30 down in Fort Worth. And I feel like it makes up for all the events that are a little bit weaker. There's no question about it. I don't know. It was almost so much information. I'm just trying to consume it all, and I just feel like I'm ready to go. So I'm gonna go through a lot of different topics today, and I realize that sometimes I come back from these things and I almost throw so much at you that your head wants to explode. But I think that I managed to get this one to be a little bit more manageable. And what I mean by that is, when we get into it, there are topics that are tangible that you could go and actually implement in your business. And then there are things that are mindset wise. The mindset things are really to just kind of like prepare you properly and kind of have your head in the right place and focused. The more tangible things are the ones that you're going to implement, and I kind of narrowed those down to the best of the best, in my opinion. So I'm hoping you'll agree.
I'm trying to figure out how to get the sound on.
Yeah, so what I was simply saying was sort of underscoring what Emily was saying earlier, that,
so bear with me.
Just in terms of like if you were looking to do a creativity fund and you weren't available to be scheduled for 3 months or something, but then you wanted to say, well, maybe I could use those 1 or 2 day workshops to sort of fill in the gap.
Trying to figure out who's
work towards the.
There we go.
There you
All
go.
right, sorry about that. All right, so let's jump right into it. For those of you who don't know, 30 Under 30 is a NAR event. Excuse me, it's a NAR group that's basically the top 30 real estate agents across the country under the age of 30. Now, clearly, I'm no longer 30. I'm 37, for those of you wondering. And the cool part about this is there's an alumni. So once you've made it into this group, you're now part of this group for the rest of your life. So people were cracking jokes like, you're going to a 30 under 30? Like, don't they know you're older? I am. But I'm actually not the oldest person in the crowd. So I didn't feel too bad. I am one of the OGs of this group at this point. So when we get into it, I'll say this group is very different than anything else that I'm a part of. And I think that the reason why it's so different really comes down to who's in the group. And, if you think about it, I was trying to figure this out, but, I've been in, boardrooms and, classrooms and, breakout rooms and different sessions, for all different types of things. And there's some brilliant people in all of these rooms. But very few rooms have an exclusivity factor to it. And everybody there is successful. A lot of times you have people that are in a room that they talk a lot of garbage, but they haven't really done anything. This is definitely not that group. I also thought about it from a perspective of the time value of money. So when you're trying to, especially later in life, like if you haven't reached success or if you haven't made some money in your career, it's like a mad rush to try to do so because you're almost feeling like you're playing catch up. Whereas everybody in this room has kind of found success earlier in their career, and now they're trying to not chase money, but really chase quality of life, chase better systems, and a better way of doing things. So I think that that's one of the big differences in this group compared to most. And where it comes out is the cadence. And I think that's, I felt like I don't know who's talking, but I'm just going to mute you again. Guys, if you have a question, feel free to interrupt me. But if not, try to do your best to mute. All right. So I want to talk about cadence. Cadence, what I find in most rooms that that I go into these conversations with, networking events, let's call it, what happens is like the people in the room typically are talking about tactics, like what's the best app that you use and all of that type of stuff. there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that it's a problem, but what I find is the best conversations that I tend to enter into are the ones that don't start with the tactics. That's almost like an afterthought, because everybody could figure out an app to do something. Everybody could figure out, like, a quick hitter, way to build a little bit of business. What really is a harder thing to figure out is just general mindset and how to grow your business and how to think about your business. Then the second thing is direction, because sometimes we just run through our business, in real estate, and we don't even really think about the direction that we're actually headed. And then finally, is strategy. And strategy is kind of like taking mindset and direction and putting a plan in place. The tactics is an afterthought. And I think that when I enter into, a 30 under 30 session, what I love about it is that's really the cadence for these conversations. It really starts with that, with that in mind. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to, I broke this into sections, and I'm going to start with mindset, and then we're going to move into direction, strategy, and tactics, we'll finish with. So when it comes to mindset, they always have a guest speaker that comes out. And it's always first thing in the morning on the first day that we're there, just to set a tone. And I love the guest speakers that they bring, because they're not what you think they're going to be. It's not like, oh, here's the top real estate agent in the world, and here's the reason why you should listen to him. It's none of that, or her. There's none of that. It's more of, here's something that you probably don't think about in your day-to-day, and maybe you should. So the speaker for this particular year was Reverend Amos DeSassa. I know he's a reverend, and I know he runs the First Presbyterian Church of Dallas, but this has very little to do with religion, just to be clear. In fact, he actually started his session by talking about the fact that he runs a very large business. I mean, there's a business being run. They raise, I think it's like $10 million a year to run the church and everything that the church does. They have another arm that's a $40 million business that's for all of like the ancillary services that are being run. So this is a very savvy business person who happens to also be a pastor. He starts the meeting with a slide, and I don't want to get any of you guys on a weird tangent here, but I do want to hit you in the face with it the way that Reverend Amos hit us in the face with it. And basically it's this. His first slide of the day, 8 o'clock in the morning, was this. He brought up, when I die, I want people to say, insert your name was blank. And then he gave us some time to think about that and write out, what is it that we want to be remembered for? What is it that we care about in our life? Because there's nothing that's more telling about what we want for our life than what we want people to reflect on us about. And I sat there, and first of all, I wasn't expecting it, clearly. I'm thinking that I'm going there for a business conference, on real estate. But then I kind of just, I sat there and I tried to reflect on that thought. And, it makes things very clear very quickly about what matters and what doesn't matter. And, he continued after nobody shared, what we wrote down. That wasn't the point of this. It was a personal, reflection moment. But he shared that, and then he went into a description, and he talked about all of the things he does as a business owner. And they're very similar to the things that we do as business owners. And then he kind of went in a little bit of a different direction and said, but there's one thing that I do differently that you guys don't. And he said, what is in my job description and not yours is being with people and families at the time of their death. And so, sitting there and just kind of like, all right, well, where are we going with this? It's a very morbid conversation. But he continued down this path, and he said, I can't tell you anything you don't already know about marketing, but I could tell you what I've learned about. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. I don't know who keeps jumping on here. If you guys can mute yourselves, that would be awesome.
Mute it.
All right. So he said, I can't tell you anything you don't already know about marketing, but I could tell you what I've learned about the inner life of people when they confront eternal darkness for their physical self. And then he went into a whole description of, in his experience, which is years and years and years of being with people and their families at the time of death, what they've disclosed to him in terms of the biggest regrets they've had on their life. And I got to tell you, it was a really, really powerful conversation. I do have it recorded. I'm happy to share it with you guys. So, I will send it to the group. But I wanted to touch upon some of the things that he spoke about and how they impacted me and how they, I believe, will impact you and, hopefully for the positive. So the first thing is he talked about death being this great equalizer. And it is. Death is for everyone. It's the rich, the poor, it doesn't matter what culture you are. It doesn't matter, what your lifestyle is. It doesn't make a difference. It still impacts you. And there are common themes. There are mistakes that people admit to making when they look back on their life while facing death. So there were 7 of them. I'm not going to go into all of them for the sake of time, but I am going to touch on a couple of them. Real quick, there's one, it's choosing to be agreeable. Essentially, just going with the flow in life is something that people tend to regret. Confusing a vision with an idea. And he joked around, an idea is when you're broke and you're watching infomercials at 2:00 in the morning and somebody talks about a get rich quick scheme, where a vision is like a true path and a calling in life. Number 3 is believing that you got this all by yourself. We're going to touch upon that one. Number 4 is forgetting where you came from. Number 5, I actually will touch upon number 4 real quick, because there was one thing that he said that I thought was so powerful. He said, everybody thinks, forgetting where you came from means you don't remember, the neighborhood you grew up in. And it's not that at all. Forgetting where you came from is remembering that 99% of human DNA is all the same. And the 1% that's different is only visible because we have an amazing ability to see because of our eyes. So, our eye, the human eye is just such a spectacular thing. So it was just kind of calling into light the fact that humans are very similar and, we should start viewing the similarities versus the differences. Number 5 is confusing pain with suffering. That was a really hard one to take in, but I thought a good one. I'm not going to touch upon it today. Number 6 was delaying inner peace to chase prosperity. And number 7 was assuming that you'll live to see all of the results. I'm going to touch on number 3 and I'm going to touch on number 7 because they impacted me in a particular way. So to start with, believing you got this all by yourself. He told the parable of the long spoons. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this. Apparently it's a pretty famous one. I've never heard it before, so I'm going to share it with you today. One day a man said to God, "God, I would like to know what heaven and hell are like." God showed the man 2 doors. Inside the first one, in the middle of the room, was a large round table with a large pot of vegetable stew. It smelled delicious and made the man's mouth water, but the people sitting around the table were thin and sickly. They appeared to be famished. They were holding spoons with very long handles, and each found it possible to reach the pot of stew and take a spoonful, but because the handle was longer than their arms, they could not get the spoons back into their mouths. The man shuddered at the sight of their misery and suffering. God said, "You have seen hell." Behind the second door, the room appeared exactly the same. There was a large table with a large pot of wonderful stew that made the man's mouth water. The people had the same long-handled spoons, but they were well-nourished and plump, laughing and talking. The man said, "I don't understand." God smiled. "It is simple," he said. "These people learned early on to share and feed one another, while the greedy ones only think of themselves." So he continued, along those lines, and he said, all of us are born in this state where we're helpless. And I think of my daughters and when they were first brought into this world. So they're all brought into life and they need us to survive. A baby's not surviving on its own. And over time we learn, certain skills and we learn survival, certainly. We learn how to live, on our own. We become adults. And we kind of lose something along the way. We lose the thought process that we need others to survive and we need to, to build off of one another. It goes away at a certain point, at least for some of us. And I think that what the point of this is when people decide that they're going to be a lone wolf in life, they're only hurting themselves. And so, the goal of this thought is, don't be that person that goes through their whole life not asking for help. Don't be that person that believes that you could do it by yourself. Because I think one of the beautiful parts about our office, especially, you know, in the context of real estate, is the fact that all of us, it's a very holistic group. People are willing to help one another. We certainly have an amazing staff that's willing to help. I know I'll do whatever I can to try to help you guys if you need it. But in general, I mean, just the ability of asking for help is an important factor to being successful in real estate. And seeking out the people that could truly help you, which is what we're going to get to in a little bit. So in the context of this 30 under 30 group, we have, you know, the top most elite agents and brokers around the country that are in this group. And I find it amazing because these are the people that are most willing to share. Nobody is concerned with, oh my God, somebody's going to steal my idea. It's not that at all. It's this open-minded forum where people are like, you know what? We understand that if we want to get to that next level, we have to help one another get there. Stop being a lone wolf is really the heart of this, is get to the point where you're okay asking for help, be vulnerable, because we're human. We all start that way. Just because you've developed skills or you've developed, like, you know, abilities doesn't mean that you should be a lone wolf. It just means that, you know what, like we could learn from each other to get to that next level. Number 7, I thought was, for me, the most powerful part of his speech. Assuming that you'll live to see all of the results. So I think all of us understand that we're not going to live forever. And we never know when it's going to be our time to go. And, you know, if we're fortunate enough, it's not for a long time from now. And that's what we always hope, but we don't really know. You know, all of us, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and that's just kind of the way the world works. But Amos, you know, told a story that was just so powerful to me that I wanted to share it with you guys. So the story goes, I hear somebody else that needs to be muted. So before I get into this, I'm going to do that. No? Okay. So the story goes like this. There's a man in Ethiopia, or a child in Ethiopia, excuse me, who's a shepherd boy. And the shepherd boy is very poor and, you know, lives in the hills of Ethiopia. And I don't know if you know this, I didn't know this, but in Ethiopia, school children only went to school until 3rd grade. And after 3rd grade, school was over, and they were considered adults at that point and pushed out to do what their family, you know, did. So if they were minors, or if they were, you know, shepherd boys, like I said, a shepherd family, that's what they did. And they got a 3rd grade education. So this boy that I was referencing, his name is German. German goes to school, and he's very passionate about school, and he does very well in school. And there's a teacher that, you know, sees that he's really applying himself and says, you know what, you need to continue on. And we can't offer you an education beyond a 3rd grade education. So I want you to travel across Ethiopia to a missionary school. And this 3rd grade boy, you know, German, he's I want to say he's 8 years old. I think that was the context. It was in that range. He lives with his uncle. And so he goes and he says to the teacher, he said, "Teacher, I would love to go on and you know, further my education, but I can't make that decision. I have to ask my uncle." And, like, to give you context, you know, if you think about it, in a shepherd community where you're raising cattle and goats and whatnot, you basically, everybody matters, especially male. Like, you know, if you're a male, it's important for your family to be there hands-on and to help, because that represents, you know, the ability to survive, essentially. But he goes to his uncle, and he says to his uncle, "I really want to take this path." And his uncle does something insane. He says yes. And he says, "Okay, like, if that's your path, if that's what, you know, your teacher had said that, you know, you're built or you're meant for, you should continue down that path." So German runs back to his teacher, and he says, "All right, my uncle said yes. He gave his blessing." And these were all poor people. So he asked the teacher, "How am I going to get across the country? How am I going to do this?" And the teacher gives him 3 birr, which is equivalent to less than $1. You know, so he gives these 3 birr to the child, and he says, "Okay, here's where the school is. He points him in the direction. It's in Demidola, and says, you have to travel there by foot, 8-year-old. It's 160 kilometers. So, and by the way, it's across the Ethiopian savannah. So, think of Africa. This is by Kenya and, and everything else. So he goes and he goes on foot. Him and there was one other child that went along with him as 8-year-olds by themselves. They travel 160 kilometers across the Ethiopian savannah, which, to give you context, that's like walking from Maplewood to Atlantic City. That's what 160 kilometers would be. So they walk across, this stretch. Keep in mind, it's not the Garden State Parkway, but they get there. And they knock on the mission school door. And when they knock on that door, they don't have, they're poor. They don't have shoes on. They're barefoot. They're knocking on the door and they say, I've been sent by my teacher. Like, they explain the story. And the man at the door, the teacher at the missionary school, opens the door and allows them to come in and live there. And he welcomes them into their school. He teaches, German. He teaches them for years. Teaches them from 3rd grade all the way through high school. German lives there. He graduated. He doesn't have enough money to buy, paper and pens or anything like that. So he practices, writing in cursive and writing his script on his leg. He scratches letters into his leg. But he gets through high school. And at the point in time when he finishes high school, he has this group of Presbyterian women from Kansas at Sterling College that decide to pay for his expenses to come and study at their institution. So they fly him from Ethiopia to Sterling College. He learns there. He gets his bachelor's degree. He goes on to get his master's degree. After getting his master's degree and and attaining this level of education, he decides that he needs to give back to the world. So he goes back to his missionary school in Ethiopia, and he teaches there for 4 years, just to give back to his community because he feels like that's the right thing to do. While he's there, there's a coup that happens in Ethiopia, and it's basically the Communist Party comes in and takes over. It's called the Red Terror. They come in and take over, and because they're communist, they don't believe in religion. And they don't believe in higher education. So people that believe in a certain religion, he happens to be, Christian, people that believe in a religion and people that are educated, this is somebody with a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, they find him to be a threat. So they imprison him. And he's locked up for years in prison, Ethiopian prisons, which I'm sure is no walk in the park, until one day, one of his mission school teacher writes a letter to and has a relationship with the president of the University of South Carolina, who then sends a letter on his behalf and on behalf of the university to get German released and gets a visa, an education visa, gets sent to South Carolina to then study to become a doctor. So he does exactly that. He gets released. He gets special permission to leave the country and to go, and he studies at the University of South Carolina. Later on, once he graduates, he becomes a teacher and a fundraiser, and he does all these amazing things at Presbyterian College, which is close to the University of South Carolina. So you hear this story, and the first thing that comes to mind in my mind is this beautiful story of perseverance. And where you started out these like menial existence, like as a shepherd boy, and through education and through a lot of gifts and sacrifice and hospitality and welcome, he's able to, go from that to essentially becoming a professor and educated and everything on his own. It's a pretty beautiful story. What you don't hear in that story is the fact that this shepherd boy is actually Amos's father. And the part that kind of brought it all together for me was this. That shepherd boy becomes Amos's father later in life, also has multiple other children. And Amos is the pastor of the First Presbyterian Church in Dallas. Amos feeds all of Dallas's homeless population. It's 1,500 meals a day, 365 days a year. He created food distributions for twice a month, where he gives boxes of food staples, things that people need to create meals at home for families that are, that are undernourished, pre-made meals, all of that, etc. They've created medical and dental offices for free health care, free dental care, therapy, mental health care, counseling. He also does rapid rehousing, gets people on the verge of homelessness into housing to make sure that they don't go homeless, so they don't have all of the tragedies that go along with being homeless. 100+ people a year. So here's the thing. That's a beautiful story, but what makes it so much more powerful and what he kind of like went towards is this. The school teacher who basically was the one who told his father that at the age of 8, you should move on. He passed away. The uncle that made the decision that said you could, make this, this journey for your life and educate yourself, he passed away. The missionary school teacher is no longer alive. The group of Presbyterian women who made this, this fundraising effort to bring this man over, they're no longer alive. The president of the University of South Carolina, who wrote that letter to get him an American visa, he's no longer alive. All of these people, they're gone. And yet, they never got to see the impact that their little small decisions, their small sacrifices have made on this man, on his family, on the people of Dallas, the homeless populations. They all improved the world. So the point of this is you will probably never, ever know the impact you will make on this world. You won't know it. Choking up over here. You just don't know the fullness of it. You see little bits and pieces of it. You see like the A to B, like I helped this person and it led to this. You never see the complete picture. And it's very rare for us to ever see that complete picture. But people that are on their deathbed thinking back on their life, they don't know what they've accomplished necessarily because they don't see it until this is 50 years removed. But through this beautiful story, it highlights what all of these little decisions and little sacrifices and gifts and welcome and hospitality, what they do later. And the point of it is, we should be okay with that. We should be okay with the fact that we're not going to see all of our results, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do those things. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't try. It doesn't mean we shouldn't give the effort, because it's all those little things over time that improve life for the rest of the world. I personally thought that was a really beautiful story. So that was the start. That was the context that we were given to enter this learning environment. And then it went from that to direction. So I'm going to completely, switch focus here. And that's why I broke this into segments, because there's not an easy transition. But when they talk direction, I think the easiest thing that people tend to start with in direction in real estate is money. So let's talk money. We didn't talk a lot about money, believe it or not, and I'm not going to talk a lot about money. I'm actually going to talk about money in the context of the one thing that it was referenced in during the whole week-long trip, because it was exactly what was needed to talk about money. The question was posed, would you trade places with a 90-year-old for X number $1 million? And so for some people it's $1 million, for some people it's 10 million, for some people there's not enough money. And I think the point is it doesn't matter how much money you put in that space. My answer is no. I want to live my life. I want to live my life with my girls. I want to live my life with the people I love, my friends, all of you. I would never trade places with a 90-year-old if given the opportunity. I don't care how much money's involved. Now, all of you guys may feel one way or another about that, but I think the majority of people in life would agree that they're not making that trade. And so I bring it up in this context because the answer to that is money is not everything. money is this piece of it. It's something and it's important, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to talk about growth, because we are, but it's not everything. And I think understanding that is half the battle, is realizing that, okay, money's important, but there are other things that have to be factored into the equation of direction. So the next thing that gets factored into my equation always is growth. So let's talk about growth. And I want to give you a quick example to highlight growth. Let's just say you have a friend. Your friend loves to cook. It's their favorite thing to do in life. They're passionate about cooking. So they go out and they open a restaurant, and they invest $10,000 to get this restaurant started. Not a lot of money, but enough where they could do the basics. They could get a lease in place, and they launch their restaurant. The restaurant flourishes, does awesome. Person's super happy. The restaurant's doing well. Her customers are happy. Everything is going great. She makes $200,000 in profit in a year with very little overhead. I mean, she has the cost of goods sold and stuff like that, but in general, there's very little overhead. She has the rent, but she's making $200,000. Is she successful? I would argue she's very successful. If you look at the rate in which restaurants fail, that's an unbelievable thing to make $200,000 in a year in a restaurant business. And I realize there are people making more. There are people that lose money, but I would say that that's a success. Take it a step further is, should she open up a second restaurant? Now, I know that for some people, the answer is absolutely, like, keep building. And for other people, the answer is no. But I think that the one thing that it should be highlighted in this is it's not such a slam dunk answer. It depends on her. It depends on what matters to her. Is she happy making, cooking because she loves to cook? Is she happy continuing to cook in her one restaurant, making a good living? Is that a good existence for her? I don't think it's such a guaranteed, well, now it's an automatic. We've reached success in this restaurant, so therefore we have to open up a second one. The crazy part, though, is when we talk about this automatic, I took this step, I have to take the next step, I have to take the next step. What I think is amazing is that's what we do in real estate. We don't even think about it. We have this staircase in real estate that we see other people go down. I'm getting a little feedback here. Just gonna bear with me 1 second. So we have this staircase in real estate that we watch people rise up, and we think that it's almost like an automatic thing. Like you have to go down this same path, and if you don't go down the same path, that somehow you're doing something wrong. And so what tends to happen is you have this, the first step is consistency. And if you're not consistent, if you're not selling, consistency means different things to different people in the context of real estate, but let's just say a house a month. So now I'm selling a house a month, I'm consistent, my business is rolling. What tends to happen next is people are like, okay, I did it, I did that, now I got to get to the next level, which is growth. I got to get to 2 houses a month. And once I get to 2 houses a month, now I need to hire staff because I don't have enough time in the schedule. So if I don't hire more staff to actually help me, do the business that I'm doing, I'm never going to be able to do it. And I want to grow further. And now I got to build a team because you know what? There's only 24 hours in the day. And if I don't build a team now, then I'm not going to be able to leverage their time. And therefore I'm leaving money on the table. There's not I want to be able to leverage my 24 hours and their 24 hours and the next person's 24 hours. So then you build a team and then you hire a coach because you have to figure out well, how do I help these people? How do I actually make that team successful? And so there's this thought process of well, I need more systems in place for me and I need to understand it better. So you hire a coach and then you have to invest in the systems themselves that the coach tells you to do. So you start investing in the systems and you start investing in leads to be able to give those leads to the people that you're supporting now. And then you have to go out and get more staff because now there's more production coming in. And it's oh, well, I need more help. If I don't have more help, we're never going to be able to run this business. And then it inevitably, it's this perpetual thing. It leads to more team members because, I have all this staff. I got to make more money to be able to support more staff. This scale, this constant scale that goes on. So what I just outlined, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Like, it's okay. Like, there's plenty of people that have taken that staircase up and have been very successful and love it. But here's the thing, like, much of this happens, all of this happens in most cases in real estate without ever questioning if it should happen. Like, should this happen? Like, do I want that for my life? Do I want that for my business? I think that we get to a certain point where we're like, it's assumed. Like, I did 25 transactions this year, so I absolutely need an admin. Like, why wouldn't I? Like, now I'm at the point in my life where I need an admin. Or, you know, I did 25 transactions, and so it's now time to build a team. Like, not everybody's built for that. Not everybody should be built for that, because it's not a requirement. It's an option. And so just like that restaurateur who built this very successful restaurant, loves what they do, is passionate about it, is having a thriving business, making $200,000 a year, it's not an automatic for that person to open up a second restaurant. I almost feel like in this world in real estate that we've gotten ourselves into in this point in time, that it almost feels like a requirement for growth. And that's not true. Like, some of the people that I know that have gotten to the point of scale, to the top of that, are miserable. Are not only miserable, but they're not making money, because they've managed to botch their success up with all of those different steps and what they're spending money on. I know somebody who's spending $40,000 a month on Tom Ferry to personally coach them. $40,000 a month. Like, is that a good investment? I don't know. Maybe he has some magic beans, but like, as far as I'm concerned, like, I don't think that that's a good investment. Like, I love Tom Ferry. It's not a knock to Tom Ferry. But the thing is like, this scale, this automated scale, we should stop it. We should start thinking about what makes the most sense on a personal basis, just like that owner of a restaurant. Is this what I want? Is this the growth that I want? And I think that what I found when I was in these conversations is, you know, I'm listening to these brilliant people. There's one particular woman in particular that gave a speech about this. And I was looking at her and I was in awe, because if you look at my operation that I run, me personally, you know, 350 agents, you know, give or take, you know, almost $1 billion. It might be $1 billion worth of real estate transactions this year. That's a lot of people. It's a lot of money. Like, that's a lot of transactions. It's a lot of clients. And then I look at her, and she runs a business where it's just her and her husband, nobody else. That's her business. And she's highly successful, you know, and you compare the two. And if you looked at it on paper, it looks like I've done something that she's not been able to achieve. But when you actually start to like peel back the onion, the question is whose approach is smarter? And I'm not saying that I'm like looking to run out of my position or anything like that. I love what I do every day, and I'm very happy doing it. It's something that I made a conscious decision and choice. But I think that there's a lot of people in that room that look at her and say, I wish I had her business, because she does business the way she wants to do business. She doesn't do business based on this machine that she built that she has to then go crazy to try to support. So all I'm saying is the topic here is to think about the direction you're going in and make a conscious decision about what it is you really want. This leads me into this next topic, and it's another question that was posed. I'm just going to do all rhetorical, just so you guys don't have to unmute and all that stuff. But the question is, how many realtors are there in the country? So the answer to that question is 1.5 million, approximately. So you have 1.5 million agents out there. And the next question is, how many realtors are considered top realtors? Like the top realtors. We all love to talk about being, I'm a top realtor and I'm a top realtor. So, or this person is the top in the market and all of that. So we all get fixated on this idea of who's top. How many people are actually top agents in the country? If you go by all of the nationally ranked lists, typically there's approximately 2,000 people that are on that list. That's teams, that's individuals, everything in between. 2,000 people that are on that list. That's 1/13 of 1% of agents are top agents. 1/13 of 1%. That's 0.0013. So there are not a lot of people out there that are top agents. And respectfully, there's not going to be many of us that are on this call today that are going to be in that category. And I don't mean that as something that's disparaging. I actually think that that's something that should be uplifting in a way, because I view that as it takes a burden off of us. Like, that's not the goal. Like, the goal is not to be, for some of you, maybe it is. For some of you, you want to be the biggest and the best agents in the history of time. Fine. Most people are never getting to that point. That's the reality of it. And if most people are never getting to that point, take the pressure of it off of your shoulders. Stop worrying about climbing Everest, because the reality is most people are not going to climb Everest. Like, that's not reality. So stop focusing on being that top agent and start running the right business for you. And it's a mental shift that needs to take place. It doesn't mean that you're trying to settle for mediocrity. Like, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that it's okay to not be that. Like, but here's the flip side of it. And it's like, we have all of these, this very few minority, like the tippy top of the mountain, that is the top agents in the country or in the world. Where most people are is base camp. Like, they're at the bottom of the mountain. And the crazy thing about base camp is that everybody at base camp has an opinion. So stop listening to the opinions of the people at base camp, because you're listening to all of these opinions and they're rattling you up. And it's people that never scaled the mountain. They never got to that point. They've never accomplished anything, or they've accomplished very little. And it's not disparaging the people around you. I think it's important for us to grow together, but stop looking over the shoulders of the people next to you and saying, oh man, I got to get another transaction this year so I could beat so-and-so, because if I don't, then I'm not accomplished. It's nonsense. Like, and I know that we have a very healthy environment in our office, and I don't think a lot of people fall into this trap, but I have enough conversations behind the scenes to know that there's a competitive juice that flows through all of us. And I think that there's a lot of people that don't realize how successful of a business they actually run, because they're too busy looking at the next person and worrying about keeping up with the Joneses. We got to get past that. It's not important. It really is not important. Because if I walk into a room of 30 under 30s and I'm comparing myself to all these other people, like, I don't know. I really don't know if I'm at the top of the top or the middle of the pack, because it's everybody's business is so different, and what their goal and direction is. Like, you can't say that this is success or that is success. Like, success takes different forms. So we have to acknowledge that and stop worrying about everybody else. We have to worry about our own success and the thought process of what direction we want for our business. The other thought process, and this is again to take some of the pressure off of you, is it's okay to simplify. Like, you do not have to be the best at everything in life. In fact, you're never going to be. You're not going to be the best at everything. I know that there are things that I'm really great at in leadership. Like, I think that, there are moments where I shine. There are other moments where I am terrible, absolutely terrible. And you could find 100 other managers, and you could like literally like close your eyes and spin and find better cheerleaders than me. I'm not a good cheerleader. I know that. Like, I think that, everybody needs to find where they're, where they fit in this, where they fit in their business and what their skill set is. And I heard something the other day that stood out to me. And it was this topic of est and ist. So I'm going to go through examples, because I said est and ist when somebody said that to me. I hear somebody unmuted, so bear with me. Can't tell who it is. So I heard this conversation of est and ist, and I'm sorry, but this is driving me nuts. There we go. Got her. So the est and the ist conversation, somebody said you have to be an est or you have to be an ist. That's the way to get to success. And I said, what does that mean? It's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And the person said, well, watch this. You have to be the fastest at doing something, or you have to be the cheapest at doing something, or you have to be a specialist at doing something, or you have to be the best at doing something. And the reality is, you're probably not going to be multiple of those things. So if you think of like a fast food restaurant, they're the fastest, like, or they're the tastiest, or they're the cheapest. Like if you think about doctors, they're specialists. Like I specialize in X, whatever field of medicine I go into. So the point of it is you're not going to be the best burger in the history of time and also be the cheapest burger in the history of time. That there's a disconnect there. It doesn't work. Like you have to figure out in your business, like what is it that you're great at? What are you passionate about? What is it that you want to focus on? And make that part of the value proposition that you bring to the table, because there's going to be somebody out there that is going to want what you are an ist or an est in. And you need to make that the magnet to drag people in. Go back to the staircase. Like it's healthy to focus on growth, but it's not required. So if it's not required, then I don't know about you, but I view this as, all right, if growth is not the answer, then what is the answer? Because for some of you, growth is the answer, and that's great. But for other people, like there are some people that are content in where they are in their business, and that's okay for them. So what replaces growth? Because if you replace it with nothing, if there's no focus, that's chaos. Like you don't want there to be no focus. You need to replace it with something. So the question is if it's not growth, then what is it? And the answer is consistency. And I've never heard somebody talk about this better than this speaker that went into this. Her role, her job, and the way she focuses on the business is, I want to say she's a $600,000 producer. So she's no slouch, just to be clear. But as a $600,000 producer, she does not want to be a $700,000 producer. She gets to a point in her business where she says, that's it. I'm taking the next 2 months off. And she goes and she travels and she enjoys time with her family. And she does all of the things that all of us dream of doing, that she just put a line in the sand and said, this is what I want for my life. And this is what I'm going to do. And I look at somebody like that and I have just tremendous admiration, because it's not easy to do. Most people fall into the trap of more. So myself included, because I'm very much about growth. It's one of the things that drives me as a human is growth. Like, and it takes different forms. Some of it is growing, like building, but some of it is like just mentally just growing as a person and growing and learning. So I look at somebody like that and I said, well, what do you replace it with? And her answer was consistency. I want to make sure that I don't drop production wise. I want to make sure that I do everything that in line with growing my business and to the point where I'm stabilized. I will guarantee that I make X a year. I will work the hours I want to work. I will work the months I want to work. And I want consistency in my business. And that was something that was like an aha moment for me, because it's so true. Like, that is the replacement. It's either growth or consistency. We have to strive for one of those two things. So the question then becomes, and for her, this was the answer, if you make X number of dollars a year, it's okay to strive to duplicate that every year, because consistency is underrated. So I don't know what that blank line is for you. And for some people, you can't complete that sentence, because for some people, it's not about duplication. Some people, myself included, like I'm one of these people that like, I'm driven off of growth. It like lights me up inside. So I'm not that person, but it's okay to be that person. And that was something that, like, taking my blinders off for a second and seeing a blind spot, I saw value in that. And I think that it's worth sharing with all of you. So, some of you want growth, like, awesome. I'm all for it, but understand it. Understand what you're actually looking for, because I think what happens is this, and this is the part that I came into this 30 Under 30 conference already knowing, but it just illuminated even further when I sat and listened to these people. Like, too many people focus on growth, but not profit. And so when you go back to this, this staircase, like, all right, understand what you're building, because you're not just growing in steps, you're also growing in responsibilities, and you're growing in the amount that it's going to cost you in your business. Build wisely, focus on profit. What is going to drive profit? And it's not just profit. And I hope that this was made obvious through what I just presented, but it's one other thing in addition to profit. It's profit and it's quality of life, because there is a balance there that needs to happen. If you could be the most profitable person in the history of the world, and think of that example of trading places with a 90-year-old. If you trade places with a 90-year-old, you might have tons of money to throw around, but is your quality of life where you really want it? My guess is probably not. Like, I would rather go out and hike and, play with my kids in the backyard and, run marathons and whatever else I want to do. Like, I don't want that trade-off. So I think that striking that balance between profit and quality of life is really what the focus needs to be. And I think far too few people take that direction. So I hope this kind of like gives you direction. Let's talk strategy. Let me take a sip of water real quick because I'm talking too much. So you can imagine when you think of strategy, there's a room full of people that are doing this at the highest levels across the country. And that doesn't happen by accident. It's not like they woke up one day and out of the sky fell a million deals that they worked on. That's not reality. Nobody does it that way. There's something behind the scenes that's moving the wheels of the engine, or the engine moving the wheels, I should say. That answer is systems. Systems, I heard somebody say this and I wrote it down real quick. Systems are the price you pay for success. You will not have success without systems. I really, truly believe that. You may have temporary success. You may, get lucky. You may, find yourself where you just have, you have a really good charm or a positive energy, and you might fall into success that way, which is great. But you're never really going to grow on that success without systems. So I thought that this was a really telling thing that was brought up. It was, what is the most impactful way to grow? All right, 100 of, not only the best and most elite agents and brokers, but also most of these people are very young. I mean, they're between the ages of 25 and say 45, 40 in that range. So this is a young group of people, especially in the context of real estate. And I thought that the answers to these questions were awesome because it was all old school. It wasn't like, oh, I use this amazing chat bot to talk to clients and, engage, and it's AI, automations that are getting me to the next level. None of that crap. It wasn't paying for leads. Nobody cared about that. It was not, in the whole room, nobody was like, I didn't even hear the word Zillow uttered the entire trip. Not once. So if you think about it, these are the best of the best. What are they doing system-wise to give themselves an advantage? The answer is sphere of influence. That's the number one thing that they're doing, is they're focusing on the people that they know. They're focusing on their past clients. They're focusing on the people in the community. They're getting business from those around them. I think that it's so overlooked and so important. So what I did to try to make this easier, because I just gave a whole speech about simplification and not going crazy with growth and everything else. I think that the best way for me to approach this is to actually just give you 3 different things that you could do with your sphere of influence that will have the most positive impact on your business. And these are not the most sexy things in the whole wide world, but I got to be honest with you, it was reverberating around the room that this was the answer. This was what people were focused on. So number 1, mail. And I know that when we hear mail, I think some people twitch because, okay, there's so many weird questions that come up. And I'm just going to say, there are 3 things in particular that really come into play. There's money. Mail is expensive. The second thing is time, because all right, what do I, how often do I get these out? That impacts money. Time also is, what am I going to mail? Like, what is the, the effort level related to, how much time it takes to actually get mailings out. It's time consuming. It's a pain in the butt. Like, and then there's the energy piece of this is like, oh, I got to think of the ideas behind what I'm going to put on this mailer. And then I have to think about who I'm going to send it to. And I got to think about how often I send it. And I got to think about the logistics of like, which company am I going to go with? And, what is the look and feel of what I'm going to send out? There's a lot of crap that goes into mailers that make it so much more difficult than it needs to be. So I stumbled upon a system while I was there that I've already signed up for. I very rarely tell you guys to spend money on anything. So, I'm about to tell you to spend some money if you're open to it, because it's the best thing that I've ever seen in terms of mailers. So the system, and as soon as this session is over, you're going to get an email from me with links for all of this. So you don't need to like really do anything right now. So just sit here and listen to it rather than trying to take notes or any of that stuff. So the system is really this middle one. It's an unlimited amount of mailers for $97 a month, which includes postage. So basically it's an app that goes on your phone, or they have a desktop version. And by the way, in what I'm sending you is a video of me actually doing it on my phone. So you're going to be able to see exactly how I send a card. And in addition to that, it has all the links to sign up for it and everything else. So why am I so infatuated with this system? Because what it allows you to do is send personalized cards, custom. You could put your own picture on the front of them if you want to, or you could use like generic cards that they have in the system. That's like, a thank you card, a happy anniversary card, all that stuff. It also acts like a CRM. It notifies you of people's anniversaries, of people's birthdays, all that type of stuff. But the coolest part about it is it's an unlimited amount for $97 and with postage, and you could send a card in a minute, in literally less than a minute. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. People respond to personalized messaging. It's something that like everybody across the room spoke to is personalized messaging. So what we get caught up in is sometimes we send these mass mailers. This system does not allow you to do mass mailers, just to be clear. The unlimited plus 30 means that you get to do up to 30 mass mailers. They call it something else. I don't even know what they call it. System sends is what they call it. So forget about the system sends. I don't care about that. It's not what this is for. This is for engaging your sphere of influence and engaging the people around you that you interact with. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you some ideas on this that I think is just so powerful. All right, so the first idea, you go to an event with somebody, you take a picture at the event, you send an actual, it could be a postcard, it could be a regular card, whatever format you want to send it in. You send it to the people in the photo as a follow-up saying, hey, I had a really awesome time at this event, so great to see you. Now you've had another touch with that person, and it takes you a minute to do. You take a picture of the front of the house when you go on a listing appointment, and you send the sellers a picture of the front of their house with basically something that says, I really appreciated your time sitting down with me. I very much look forward to working with you. They're going to get that during the period of time that they're deciding on which agent to go with, assuming that you're in competition. You don't think that that's going to have a little bit of an advantage to you? Of course it will. Like, it's personal to them. It's got the front of their house on it. Like, it's a really nice touch. You find an old photo of a friend, send a just thinking about you photo. Like, that's something that like people love to get, like, oh, look at me in high school. That's something that people put on their refrigerator. You are now top of mind for the rest of eternity because people get stuff like that and they don't throw it out. They just like put it where they, where they have special things, sentimental value. I'll give you a strategy for it. You send 10 cards a day. And the way you do it is you go on Facebook, you go on Instagram, and you find something that people post about themselves. The example that I gave is somebody just had a baby. You send them a card with the picture of their baby on the front of that card that says, congratulations. What was that? You send a picture of the front of the card with their baby on it that says, congratulations. So now you're not going to get more personal than that. Everybody on Instagram and on Facebook on a daily basis, your entire sphere of influence, everybody that you know in life, is posting about their life every single day. They're posting about their life, their accomplishments, their, the things that have gotten them down, like, oh, I just lost my dog, or I just had, a family member pass away. Send a sympathy card. Like, you can send an infinite amount of cards. And by the way, all you got to do is say, like, oh, I see so-and-so, like, I'm on Facebook. I see so-and-so just got a job promotion. Take the picture of them getting a promotion, send it to them. Congratulations on your big promotion. I'm so excited for you. It's been a long time. I hope all is well. Like, it takes 10 seconds to do these things. It's the easiest system in the world. You copy and paste these pictures into this program. Send a fun celebration card when your client goes under contract, like, or gets through a home inspection, or gets the mortgage commitment. I have not come across any system in my entire life that allows you to engage with mail, because mail is expensive and it's usually a hard thing to do and there's a production to it. Like, I've not seen anything that I've come across in life that allows you to do this with such ease. And it's the best thing that you could do for your business. Like, I mean, we spend so much money on all these crazy things to do with our business. There's nothing that's more valuable than touching people personally. Like, that's the number one thing that we could do. Send a birthday card to people. It allows you to set up a time where it basically says, you know what, 7 days in advance, it'll send you a notification that your client's birthday is coming up. All right, 7 days in advance, send a little birthday card. You're going to be the one person in your client's life that sends them a card outside of their mom and dad. Like, nobody sends birthday cards. Like, most people don't. I just feel like creating a system for contacting your sphere of influence is crucial. That's step one. That's the mailing campaign. Step two, this is all sphere of influence, is CRM. So this is such basic stuff. Like, I'm kind of embarrassed talking about it because we talk about CRM like for years. Like, you need to get your people into a CRM. You need to get your people into a CRM. So here's the beautiful part. All the excuses are about to be taken away. We have right now a system called InTouch, which is really white labeled. It's actually market leader. You guys all have it. It's part of what Coldwell Banker offers for free. It's a CRM. It's a website. Not a lot of thrills, not a lot of bells and whistles. Like, it's okay, but it's kind of a bare bones thing. Some of you guys have decided to, like, upgrade and get the pro version, and even that, it's okay. Like, it's better than not having anything, both whether it's basic or pro. Like, it's certainly a step above not doing anything, but it's not the greatest system in the whole wide world. We're about to get something really sophisticated. Coldwell Banker just went out and bought the Moxie suite, which basically, if you guys are familiar with Moxie, because we have Moxie Present right now, but we're going to get Moxie CRM, which is called Moxie Engage. We're going to get Moxie Impress, which is their solution for basically automation related to social media. So you could take something and you could promote it very easily to all of your social media channels. It also helps you with, like, pushing out listings and all of that. It's a great tool for social media driven stuff. Very luxury website that you're going to get. It's something that you're still going to be able to brand. It's all branded to you. They're personalized websites, but way more sophisticated in terms of lead capture and in integrating IDX. The cool part, similar to Moxie Present, is when you talk about Moxie Engage, it's all MLS integrated. So right now, some of you guys are sending, still sending like automated emails through the MLS to your clients. Some of you have went out and bought, CRM software that like allows you to do this. You're going to be able to do this through our system, and it's built for sending videos. It's built for text message marketing. It's built for working with teams, like, so sharing leads between team members. It does all of the tasks that one would want for a sophisticated CRM. It just does everything for you. I cannot stress highly enough how important it is for you to actually use this. I mean, if you have your own CRM, great, keep using what you're using. The cool part about it, though, is you don't have to start when this gets released. My understanding is it's a January release date. Like, that's kind of like the time period that we're talking about. But you don't have to start then. I sent you guys this template that is basically, you just take your sphere of influence, you put it into this template, and you could then, have it uploaded into InTouch. Why am I telling you to spend any time and effort on InTouch? Well, the reason is anything that you put into InTouch is going to be automatically transferred over to you and put into Moxie. So you could do all the work now, and it's going to benefit you later when we have all the best, most sophisticated software that's out. You're going to be able to use it from day one versus waiting till January to kind of put your people into, your sphere of influence into a spreadsheet, and then not being able to use this software when it actually gets released. Like, take advantage. I mean, if you think about it, and this is like kind of like a mind-blowing thing for me, the top agents in the world, the top brokers in the world, the number one thing that they talk about is this. It's the number one thing beyond all the fancy crap that's out there, all the people that are trying to sell you systems and all the people that are, all the different like tools and services. The number one thing to getting business in today's world is engagement with your current clients, your past clients, and the people around you. Use it. Just do it. I mean, there's no excuses. There's not, you have all the time in the world. Take between now and January and, once a week, put in 10, 15, 25 people, whatever it is. Like, just make time for it because it's something that's going to truly help you. It's not just fluff that people talk about to to try to sell a CRM. Like, it really works. So utilize it. That's 2 systems. Now you have mailers for $1,200 a year, an unlimited number of contacts for mail, which I'm going to tell you right now, I'm probably going to send 10 plus a day, every day of my life. Like, it's just, I'm going to take full advantage of this unlimited factor. Second thing is a CRM. That's free. There's no cost to it. The first thing that I talked about, by the way, is, I told you it's $97 a month. There's no contract. So if you wanted to do it this month and not do it next month, you could do that. The second one, it's free. Coldwell Banker is offering the top software related to the full Moxie suite. There's not going to be levels to it. There's not going to be like, oh, I buy a pro version, none of that crap. You will get the full suite starting in January. So you're going to have 2 big components of your business are now checked off, mailers and a CRM. You'll have the best of the best in both of those for less than a rental, let's call it. Number 3. Never answer the same question twice. I heard this and my first thought was, what do you stop answering? Like, it was like, oh, what do you do? Like, because you get a client that asks you the same question, or you get multiple clients that ask you the same question. Like, that happens all the time. How many people have asked you like, okay, well, what happens in attorney review? Like, it's just this generic stuff that we answer all the time. Never answer the same questions twice because of this second piece. Every question you get is a missing system. So if you think bigger and you think of, all right, like questions are systems in hiding. Like, we don't realize it. We don't typically think that way, but we should. Like, if you're answering the same question twice, like, you're missing something. And I'm going to give you an easy example. So the Melrose, the bed and breakfast that I own down the shore, we got inundated early on with people that would hit us up and be like, oh, I'm curious about, beach passes. Like, how do you buy beach passes? What is the parking situation? All these like little things that will take up your whole day. And my operating partner was going crazy answering all of these. And so, we were kind of doing an overview at one point, a recap of what the challenges are. And I said, we need a system in place for this. Like, and he was like, what do you mean? And I said, we cannot respond to all these people's messages one off every single time they ask, because we're going to be spending the rest of our lives. Fortunately, it wasn't me doing it, but regardless, we're going to be spending the rest of our lives responding to what the parking situation is. So we created automations where basically they ask about parking and they get an automatic message sent to them that says the parking situation is blah, 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 blah. And it's nobody's doing it. I'm not doing it. My partner's not doing it. Like, it's just an automated thing. So the real estate equivalent to that is very simple. Video. It's video. So you get a question that people ask you about, write out a really awesome response to it, and record a video with that response. You did it one time, not 150 times over the course of the next 10 years. Then every single time somebody asks you that question, you copy and paste the video and you shoot it off to them. And now they've gotten a really, really good answer and they're not subject to your schedule. So half the time, like the problem that exists is we don't have enough time. We're running around like chickens with our head cut off, like trying to do everything we possibly can to solve problems and build our business and answer questions and all this stuff. And people get kind of pushed to the back burner because we don't have enough time to respond to them. And then when we do respond, we give them like this, like half-assed response because we just squeezed it into our schedule, when we could have given them a phenomenal response if we just recorded it when we had the time to do it, when we got asked it 50 times ago. And imagine the time that you're creating in your life by doing it 50 times ago. And if you do it for every single question that you get, well, now you build up a catalog and your life becomes easier and easier and easier. And you're also a much better specialist for that client. Because now the client is thinking to themselves, wow, they have content for everything. They're sharing that content with people that they know that might be going through the same problems. And you're picking up residual business that you didn't even know existed because you're too busy on the phone trying to explain to your clients what a home inspection is. It's simple if we just make it simple. Like, people get caught up with like, oh, I don't know how to record a video. Take out your iPhone or your drone or whatever it is, your Android, and record a quick video. Like, hey guys, this is the answer to blah. It doesn't have to be professional. It doesn't have to be sexy. It just needs to answer the question in an intelligent way. All right. I know you guys have been listening to me on my soapbox for a while now. So I'm going to go through a couple quick tactics. And these are like quick hitters. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on it. But I do think that there's some pretty interesting things that people are doing. It's more of examples of stuff that people are doing to build their business. So there's this woman that got up and spoke about what she does prior to a listing. So she knows she's going on a listing appointment at 123 Main Street. She spends the money to go out and get a drone video or drone photography of the house prior to going on the listing appointment. She said it's a couple $100. There's an investment there, but she has never lost a listing in her entire life, since she started doing this. And I said, well, what do you do? She said, I include all of the drone videography and the drone photography. I include it in the listing presentation that I'm giving them. So it's their house on display. And she said, I need to do it anyway. And it's something that, like, if I were to lose a listing, I suppose that I would lose the ability to, or I would lose the money attached to that. She said, but it's relatively inexpensive. The amount of money that I spend on it, she said, you know how hard it is to get listing appointments? Listing appointments are gold. She said, I don't want to lose a listing appointment. I go on a listing appointment, like every single one of my checks is $15, $20, $25, $30,000. She said, I'm not willing to let go of a potential $30,000 check over a $250 photography session. She said, that's part of the value that I bring in the door when I step into that door, because they know I'm prepared. They know I'm going to do an awesome job with marketing, and they sign right there on the spot. It's personal to them. Again, it goes back to what I talked about before, personalization to the client. I love that idea. I love that idea. It's such a brilliant thing. If I was back in sales tomorrow, I would do this for every single listing that I go on. Second thing, you've heard it a million times over. Take your calendar before 2022 and write out, here's when I'm going to do an event. Here's when I'm going to send a client, email. Here's when I'm going to do something special for a holiday. Write your calendar out in advance. It's the plan. Like, if you don't have a plan, you roll into the year and you're like, I don't know. Like, oh man, I missed this holiday. I really wanted to send something to these people. If I only did that, maybe I would have got that piece of business. Like, put a plan in place. It's simple. Just take a calendar and start writing it out. This is a little bit more of a costly thing, but hopefully we get to the scale if you want to get to this point. Somebody talked about alignment, and I'm going to go into not today, but in a future meeting, I'm going to go into a real deep dive into alignment, because we mistakenly confuse loyalty and alignment all the time. How many people said, I sold that person that house and they didn't sell with me later. They listed with so-and-so, and they view it as a lack of loyalty. It's not a lack of loyalty. It's a lack of alignment. They are not aligned with you because for whatever reason, they don't think that you're the best person for the job. how do you strike alignment with people? So one way that somebody that brought up in the group about alignment is their 100th deal of the year, they give away that commission check to a charity. And they basically open it up to, everybody in there, that has bought a house with them, all their sphere of influence gets to vote on charities online. And once they hit that 100th transaction, some people do it at their 50th transaction. There's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm using 100 because that was the example that they gave. So they make a big spectacle of it because you got to figure the 100th transaction, could be $15,000. Like, it's not cheap necessarily. Like, but that investment basically aligns them with their clients for the whole year because all of their clients are now knowing that it is like a common goal here. They want them to get to 100 because they want that money to be paid out to a charity of their choice. Like, and it's, there's a voting contest that goes along with it. I could go into greater detail on it, but, they do a Facebook Live. They have a big check produced. Like they hand it off to the charity. They, congratulate everybody for voting. There's like a whole thing, a whole campaign that goes along with it. That was a pretty cool concept if you get to that scale. Another thing is on a very small scale is may kindness return to you in the same beautiful way that it was given. This is a card. This goes back to kind of when I talked to you originally about sending cards. So they found these great cards at Target, and they're going to send 2 cards to 20 to 30 clients, one to a person, and then a second one, which is a blank card that they could pass along to another person with 2 $5 gift cards attached to them. And the point is it's like this, giver's gain type of thing and like, pay it forward. So that's something that has done wonders for, like people are like, oh my God, that was so thoughtful. And I get to be thoughtful to somebody else. You make people feel good inside when you get them to do nice things for others, which naturally will be reflected back on you. Another thing was a teacher giveaway. So teachers, I didn't realize this, but I guess teachers in many school districts are very short on supplies. So what this person does is they fill up a whole entire art cart. It's not a very expensive thing, but they fill up a whole art cart with 5,000 pieces of printer paper and 300 laminating pouches and 180 pencils and like all of these different things. Then they put it out on Facebook and they say like, can't believe it's a new school year. It's time for our annual teacher giveaway. Like, and they basically have people in the community nominate teachers that should get this. And whoever gets the most votes, whatever teacher gets the most votes, gets this cart. Well, naturally, it gets passed to 1 million people because it's just a nice thing to do for their son or daughter's teacher. And it's something that like the whole community got around. She had 7,000 people that, that this reached, 225 likes, 297 shares. She said her whole community exploded over like a couple $100 worth of investment on her part and just the time and effort and energy it took to actually put it together. I thought it was a pretty cool thought process. The whole point is bringing community together. Community events was the last thing. I'm not going to go, just for sake of time, I'm not going to go into community events. I'll talk about them at other, at future, meetings. But I thought the community events thing is something that a lot of people stressed, is how to bring people together. To remain nameless, but I know there's somebody in our town, an agent that has like a big wrapped van that basically, they let the van have usage. For moving and stuff like that. There was somebody in the 30 under 30s that did a really cool thing. They spent $40,000. That was the open investment. And they allow all types of community events to use their van. It's like a Sprinter van or a tracker van, tracer van or something like that. But they allow that van to be used for not only moving, for their clients, but also any community event that needs a van. They allow them to basically sign the van out just as long as they use their insurance. And the amount of business that has come out of that, because at every event in town, people need, transportation for certain things, whether it's chairs or, what have you. And what happens is like this person is being branded everywhere. And so they send along like a photographer or a videographer to, get the van at whatever location, whatever event it is. And then they post it on Facebook, they post it on Instagram. And they said that the involvement in the community related to this is well worth the investment that they put out there. So for risk of having you guys all glaze over, That's what I got. I'm going to open it up. I don't know if, anybody, if you have to go, I completely respect, your time if you have to run. But if you have any questions, I'm certainly open to answering any questions you have. I was blown away by some of the things that people are doing, but it's not, it's mindset, it's direction, it's understanding where you want to go in your business. And then it's really, making it personal, reaching out to the people that are around you, making them feel good about life, making them feel like you really care about them. I mean, that is the business strategy. It's not buying leads on Zillow. And I think that understanding that and really embracing that and doing it is all the battle. So you guys can be unmuted. If you have any questions, I'm open to it. I really hope you enjoyed what I had to present today.
What was the name of the mail program, Michael?
I'm going to say you're going to get an email in the next 10 minutes on it. So I'm going to send all that out. It has the links. You just click the link and, you can sign right up. Really easy.
Michael, I just wanted to say, freaking awesome meeting. So inspired. And I feel like I got to recharge my batteries a little this summer. And mentally, I've just been sort of like getting ready to get back in my sort of hustle mode. And thank you so much for sharing all these great ideas. Again, it's like so simple, but so powerful. And I'm really excited and great to see everybody as well.
I really appreciate that, Ben. I want to share something along those lines because I think that, we like, I said before, I gave the story of Amos's father and the journey that he went on and not knowing in life who you're going to touch and who is going to just change the path and trajectory of somebody's life. On a very small scale, I got to be honest, like I was cleaning my desk. I got home and I've been in like system mode, as you can imagine. Like I'm very much thinking about like what, building and making sure that I get my life in order. And I came across something that I would never throw out. Like I have these through the years, but this one happens to be sitting on my desk right now. It was from Jen McManus. And she wrote, "Dear Michael, thank you for being such a great manager." It was a handwritten note. And I know the Scotts, like they sent me this beautiful basket when my daughter was sick. I think of little things like that. I mean, I can't even tell you how much that means. Like I deal with a lot of people in my life. Those are the things that like kind of stick with me and I kind of, it's not the gifts. I don't want gifts. That's not the point. It's just the thought. And I think of like somebody in my position where I have a million people around me and I essentially teach sales for a living. Like, and then I think about the people that don't have that.
I just want to give her a hug.
Like, how many people in life don't have a million people around them? How many people in life really could use like that moment of, hey, I just want to let you know I care about you. I mean, those are the things that like we don't think about. And I got choked up saying it, even the story earlier, but when Amos was talking about, his father and he went into that whole story and then he talked about all the people that are gone that never got to see all the beautiful things that he's doing in his life. I was tearing up like, forget it. I mean, I couldn't breathe. And I just think it's such a powerful thing. Like we have the ability to really change the people's lives around us and we might not see it all, but that's okay. So like go out there and really make a difference, like make a difference with the people around you and be that person, that glue that, that inspires them. Like that's what our job is, more so than anything else in life. We're not selling widgets. Like this is somebody's home. Any comments, any questions? We got Irv with his smirk. All right, guys. I'm losing my voice over here, so I think I'm done.
Thank you, Michael.
My pleasure.
Thank you,
guys
Michael.
so
That
much.
was awesome.
Yeah, I'll send out the
Really
recording.
awesome.
Thanks, Michael.
You're going to get an email from me in regards to the system that I was talking about. I'm really appreciative of you guys coming, and I really care about you guys, so thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Great meeting.
Thanks,
Thanks
Mike.
so much, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great one, everyone.
My pleasure. Thank you.